He brought me tea. Too hot. Like he knew I wasn't going to drink it. The cup clicked softly against the wood. He set it down with deliberate precision, as if it mattered. As if this tiny act of hospitality would warm the frozen, filthy little Omega he thought he'd rescued. Steam curled upward, floral, slightly bitter, chamomile. I stared at it. Too hot, too perfect, just like everything in this house. The blanket around me was soft, not the cheap, scratchy kind you steal from supply trucks or peel off a corpse. Real wool, worn smooth at the edges, warm like body heat. It made my skin crawl. The room was clean, spare, not sterile but lived in. The walls were pinewood, knotted and slightly darkened with age. The bed was too soft, the pillow too full. The curtains were open just enough to let in the morning light, as if someone had calculated the best angle for comfort. Nothing here was random, including him. Ryan Locke, Alpha, Commander, leader of the most self-righteous pack this side of the border. Target. I didn't need to look up to feel him still standing there. I could hear his breathing, steady, controlled. I could feel the weight of him on the air, like a storm that refused to pass overhead. Too calm, too still. "You're not drinking it," he said finally. His voice was deep and dry, with the texture of gravel beneath snow. Measured, not soft, not demanding, just there. Inescapable. I blinked at the tea like it might shift into something else if I waited long enough. Something less symbolic, less dangerous. "It's hot," I muttered. "You'll get used to that." He didn't move. Silence settled between us again, but not the comfortable kind. The kind that pried at your seams. The kind that said, "I'm watching you breathe." Then footsteps, measured, heavy boots on hardwood, and gone. I waited 10 seconds after the door clicked shut. 15. Then I exhaled. I've killed 3 alphas. None of them brought me tea. The last one had me thrown in a cage for 4 days before deciding what to do with me. Before deciding I wasn't worth feeding. Ryan Locke brought me tea. And a blanket. And left the window cracked open just enough to smell the trees. Something is very wrong. They think I'm a runaway. An Omega who snapped after too many bruises, too much control, too many rut-drunk alphas using me like a chew toy. And it's not far off. But the difference is, I didn't run to escape. I ran to kill. 3 nights ago, I slipped through the trees, bloodied my own feet, tore my shirt for effect, and walked into the outer perimeter of the Locke territory, looking like a lost puppy. They brought me in without a question. Ryan himself met me at the gate, no ceremony, no suspicion. Just one long look, those pale gray eyes boring into mine, and a nod. "You're safe now." I almost laughed. I almost stabbed him right there. But the mission came first. 3 days until the full moon, 3 days until my deadline. 3 days to find the best way to kill an alpha who doesn't act like one. A knock at the door. Soft. Not Ryan this time. "Breakfast in 10, someone called. Young voice. Male. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Omegas weren't expected to respond. I waited until the footsteps faded, then stood, stretching each limb like I'd just survived something. In a way, I had. I padded to the small wooden dresser where they'd put clean clothes, neutral colors, soft fabrics, new, not stolen, not stained. I ignored them. Instead, I knelt and pulled one of my boots from under the bed. Left one. I turned it over in my hands, fingers tracing the inside seam until they found it, the flap of leather just beneath the insole. I peeled it back carefully. There, nestled in the lining, was a glass capsule no bigger than a fingernail. Milky in color. Slightly warm to the touch. A mix of concentrated wolfsbane, silver resin, and a drop of paralyzing toxin coded to alpha pheromones. A dose small enough to look like a heart attack. I pressed my thumbnail against the seal until it gave a tiny click, just to make sure the capsule still responded. It did. A small smile tugged at my mouth, still sharp, still mine. I slid it back into place and rose, ignoring the slight tremble in my legs. Not fear, anticipation. calculation. A cold tick in my ribs that said, soon. When I stepped into the hallway I heard laughter. Children. That wasn't part of the plan. 2 young Omegas were sprinting down the corridor, barefoot, giggling as one tried to catch the other. A teenage girl, no older than 13, rolled her eyes and swept past them with a tray of plates. No guards, no locked doors, just people. Living. What the hell is this place? Morning, someone said behind me. I turned, too fast. Ryan stood there, hands in his pockets, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. His shirt was plain black, tucked neatly into cargo pants. No weapons, no pack marks, just him. The scent hit me too late. Earth and pine, faint citrus, a punch in the gut. My heart skipped. You don't like the tea, he said, not quite a question. I blinked. It's fine, it's not. I saw your face, I fought the urge to step back. You always watch people that closely? He tilted his head. Only the ones who act like they're about to bolt. Old habit, I said flatly. He studied me for a moment. If you want something different, ask. We're not here to control you. That was unexpected. So what are you here for? I asked before I could stop myself. His eyes met mine. To make sure you survive long enough to ask better questions. He walked away. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. I was already unraveling. And he knew it. The scent of roasted root vegetables hit me first. Warm, earthy, nostalgic. If nostalgia was something I allowed myself. I stepped into the main lodge behind the others, eyes scanning the room with reflexive calculation. 1 exit, 2 windows, knife block on the far counter. Hot pans steaming on the stove. 3 Omegas, 1 older, 2 kids, cooking like they'd done it every morning of their lives. And no one looked up, no one flinched. Like I belonged. It was disturbing. Sit anywhere you like, said a quiet voice behind me. I turned and saw her. Small frame, dark curls pulled into a messy bun, eyes too old for a 14-year-old. She held a tray of silverware like it was sacred. Mika. I remembered her name from the intake file. Escaped a rogue camp with her brother a year ago. Bit her own handler's thumb off to do it. You're new, she said, not a question. I nodded. She stared at me a beat longer, then nodded back like that sealed some unspoken contract. I'm Mika, that's Jory. She nodded toward the wiry teen boy hovering over a pot of stew, bouncing on his toes. Jory waved, grinning. You like spicy? I made this batch. Sure, I said. I didn't. He scooped an extra-large portion into a bowl and practically slammed it onto the table in front of me. You look like you need the calories. He wasn't wrong. I sat, still tense, but trying to appear relaxed. My hand hovered over the spoon, then froze. I wasn't used to eating around others. In most places I'd been, food was currency, or bait, or threat. Here it was, breakfast. The first bite burned my tongue. Jory beamed like I'd complimented his soul. They didn't ask questions. Not about my name, my past, my scars. Instead, Mika taught me how they divided chores. Jory told me which floorboards creaked. They argued over who had the best aim with a slingshot. I watched them like a foreign species. Unafraid, unbroken. And then I realized something worse. They reminded me of the person I used to be, before I was trained into a weapon. Later that afternoon, Ryan brought them outside to train. I followed at a distance, pretending to study the terrain. The clearing behind the lodge had been cleared of debris and layered with firm soil, soft enough to fall on, hard enough to bruise. Training mat by nature. Jory lunged. Mika dodged. Ryan corrected both of them without raising his voice. Use your core, not your shoulders. Don't flinch before you move. Look past the attack. Not at it. I knew these moves. Not the way he taught them, gentle, methodical, but with the underlying precision of a killer. Ryan wasn't running a dojo. He was building soldiers. And yet none of it felt cruel. Get in, he said, suddenly looking at me. I blinked. What? You're watching. Might as well contribute. Mika and Jory both stepped back instinctively. I stepped forward. He gestured toward Jory. Work on stance, light spar, no real hits. I hesitated. then dropped into form. It came back like breathing. My body remembered what my mind tried to bury. Shift weight, control breath, anchor from the hip. Jory came at me with a grin. I disarmed him in 4 seconds. After the 3rd round, Ryan called break. Jory flopped into the grass, sweaty and happy. "Where'd you learn that?" he asked, breathless. I shrugged. "A place that doesn't exist anymore." "Was it a good place?" "No." He frowned, but didn't push. Ryan stood at the edge of the clearing, arms crossed, watching me like I was a puzzle missing the last piece. The wind rustled through his dark hair, and he didn't so much as blink. "You have discipline," he said. I wiped sweat from my brow. "Comes in handy. You ever teach?" "No." We walked back toward the lodge in near silence. The forest around us was unnervingly peaceful. Not silent, birds still chirped, wind still whispered, but clean. No scent of blood, no scent of fear, just pine sap and something like rain coming. "I need help in the kitchen tomorrow," he said casually, not turning to look at me. I stopped. "You think I'm only good for chopping carrots?" He glanced over his shoulder. "If you weren't good for more than that, you'd be dead already. Just fact." I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "Fine," I said. "But I'm not washing dishes." He smirked. "That's Jory's punishment this week." That night the kitchen was empty, no guards, no cameras, just dim light and the lingering scent of baked potatoes and rosemary. I stood at the counter staring at the set of meal packs stacked for tomorrow, labeled, portioned, ready. I could do it now. Just a few drops, a small puncture in the seals, no one would taste it. One meal for Ryan. No contact, no suspicion. My fingers hovered over the vial I'd hidden in my sleeve. I didn't move, not because I was afraid, because something shifted in my chest, a memory, a smell, a warmth. I sealed the packs, walked away, didn't look back. When I crawled into bed, I stared at the ceiling for a long time. The blanket was still too soft, but I didn't throw it off. And in the hallway someone laughed in their sleep. It was supposed to be simple. Breakfast rotation, 1 alpha meal. I slipped the capsule into the rim of the mug while the stew reheated on the stove. Half a second. That's all it took. Just enough toxin to stop his heart. No pain, no trace, no second chances. I arranged the tray like I'd seen Mika do it. Clean spoon, small cloth napkin, 2 slices of toasted rye with berry jam. Ryan liked it dry and unfussy like everything else about him. I carried the tray down the hall, each step rehearsed in my head 100 times. When I reached the door, I knocked. "Come in," came the voice, calm, unreadable. I opened the door. He was standing by the window, shirtless, the morning light outlining the muscle along his shoulders and back like a sculptor's dream. His scent hit me in a wave, pine and salt and something low and hot, like cracked pepper under skin. I couldn't breathe. "Breakfast," I said, steady. He turned, eyes narrowed slightly. "Thanks." I set the tray on the desk, waited. He didn't move. "You often wander near the kitchen this early?" he asked, voice casual. My stomach tensed. Couldn't sleep, 3 nights in a row? I turned my face away. "You keeping a log? Just watching?" He stepped closer, too close. His eyes flicked to the cup, then back to me. Something in his expression shifted, and I knew, he knew, he'd known from the beginning, and he'd let me. I reached for the hidden blade under my sleeve. He was faster. In one fluid movement he caught my wrist, twisted and pinned it behind my back with enough force to make me gasp. I struggled, but he didn't tighten, just held, controlled, silent. My pulse roared in my ears. "You were going to kill me," he said near my neck. I didn't answer. He turned me slightly, eyes catching mine. "You hesitated. You watched me poison your tea," I hissed. "Why the hell didn't you stop me?" "I wanted to see what you'd choose." "You think this is a game?" "No, I think this is the first time you've ever had a choice." He let go. He didn't move to pick it up, neither did I. I couldn't stop shaking, and then, it hit me. The scent in the room shifted, subtle, sharp, Feral. My body reacted before I could think. Fever pulsed under my skin. My spine stiffened, muscles coiled tight. My fingers curled into fists, then opened again. Useless. Fucking pheromones. No. No, no. You feel it too, he said quietly. I don't, I snapped. You're lying. His voice was calm, patient, like he had all the time in the world to watch me unravel. My body flushed with heat, an ache blooming deep in my chest, coiling down, knotting low. I hated it. Hated how my knees weakened. Hated that he could scent it. Me turning to ash in my own skin. He stepped forward again deliberately. I stepped back, right into the wall. His palm landed next to my head, caging me in. The air between us burned. I should throw you out, he murmured. Let your own people deal with their broken tools. Then do it. You want me to? I swallowed hard. I want you to stop talking like you know me. He leaned in, close enough that his breath brushed my ear. I don't know you. But I know what it feels like to be a weapon they stop sharpening. My whole body locked. Then, his hand slid down my arm, slow, deliberate. I flinched. He didn't stop. His other hand caught my chin gently, terrifyingly gently, tilting my face up. I should have screamed, I should have run, but I didn't. Because his scent wrapped around me like smoke. Because the bond, that should have never been real, should have never activated, was humming under my skin like a live wire. You're shaking, he said, thumb brushing my jaw. I'm not scared of you. Good. He kissed me, not soft, not sweet. It wasn't a question. My back hit the edge of the bed before I realized we'd moved. His hands were on my chest, pulling the shirt open. Mine clutched at his arms, not to push him away. To anchor. I hated him. I hated myself more. He didn't ask permission. There were no words. Only breath, heat, nails dragging down skin. Only the unspoken violence of need, ugly and raw. No kisses, no whispers, no love, just fire. Burning out of control. When it was over, I lay there still shaking, naked under the sheet, staring at the ceiling like it might split open and swallow me whole. Ryan sat at the edge of the bed, pulling on his shirt like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just failed at everything. He didn't look at me, didn't say a word. He just stood, walked to the door, paused. You're not on a mission anymore, he said. Figure out what that means. Then he left, and for the first time in years, I didn't know what to do. I packed a bag, not because I had a plan, but because doing something felt better than sitting in that room with the scent of him still lingering on the sheets. My limbs ached in strange ways, my chest felt hollow, and my hands kept shaking like they missed holding a blade. I slipped on my boots, adjusted the strap of the pack, and made for the back door before anyone could stop me. Someone did. But not the way I expected. He stood at the base of the steps, tall, mid-40s, dressed in a clean gray shirt tucked into worn work pants. Calm. Solid. A ghost of a scar under one eye, barely visible. Ryan's right hand. He didn't raise his voice, didn't move toward me, he just looked at me and said, "He asked me to let you choose." I gripped the strap tighter. Choose what? Stay, go, burn the place down, doesn't matter, just don't do it on autopilot. Finally I turned and sat on the steps. He stood beside me in silence. I activated my comm chip. It took a moment to connect. The voice on the other end crackled into life, dry, familiar, impatient. "You're late with your check-in." I swallowed. The mission's compromised. Then extract. No response to distress pings. I'm not cleared to initiate a reroute alone. A pause. Then, we're not extracting. Silence stretched between us. "You're off protocol," the commander continued. "Off mission. You're dead weight now. I can re-engage." "No." "You hesitated. You failed. We don't retrieve failure." My vision tunneled for a second. "You have two options," the voice said. "Disappear quietly, or die making up for it. Either way, this line is terminated." Then click, dead air, no pulse beacon, no backup, no fallback codes. I sat there for a long time staring at the dirt, dead weight. "Did you lose something?" a soft voice asked. I looked up. Mika was crouched a few feet away, holding a bucket of berries like it weighed more than she did. "Only a reason to breathe," I muttered. She tilted her head. "You don't seem like someone who gives up breathing easy." I almost laughed. Almost. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and smoke. Jory was chopping something with dramatic flair, clearly trying to show off. I joined him in silence, took a knife, cleaned it, started peeling. After a few minutes he asked, "What's it like being a ghost?" I froze. "What? You move like one. Like you're not sure if you're alive." I didn't answer. He didn't seem to mind. Mika passed me a bowl without looking. "Everyone here used to be something broken." Jory grinned. "Now we're just weird," I snorted. "Dry, short, but real." Mika looked up surprised. "Was that a laugh?" "No," I said. "Liar," Jory chimed. Later that afternoon Ryan brought Jory out to the training mat. He didn't acknowledge me sitting off to the side. Didn't need to. Jory was sloppy, arms too wide, feet out of balance. Ryan corrected him with firm, short instructions. I watched for a while, then stood, walked out. Jory saw me and lit up. "Tag in?" Ryan stepped back. I took his place. No orders, no expectation, just instinct. I shifted my stance. Jory mirrored me. We moved. I didn't go easy on him. His eyes sparkled with something too old for his age. Ryan leaned against a tree, arms crossed, watching. Didn't speak, didn't interfere. But he was there. I felt it, like gravity. When I finished I nodded once to Jory and stepped back. Jory beamed, wiping sweat from his brow. "That was sick. You fight like a ghost but you teach like someone who wants to stick around." I didn't answer, but I stayed. That night, in the quiet of my room, I stared at the ceiling. No missions. No codes. No voices in my ear telling me who to be. No punishment for failure. And for the first time, no orders. Just breath, my own. Dinner was almost ready. The stew simmered. Mika set the bowls. Jory carved rough wedges of bread, stealing crusts when he thought no one was looking. I was at the stove, tasting the broth when it happened. The front door slammed. Heavy steps. A voice. Low, sharp, unfamiliar. Male. Too loud. Too close. I barely registered the words. Something about territory. About Omegas needing to earn their keep. About desperate bitches begging for alpha favors. And then he grabbed Mika. The ladle hit the floor. My body slammed into hers, shielding her from the blow, driving both of us to the ground. I felt claws swipe air above us. Hot breath, rage, then a roar. It didn't come from me. Ryan hit the other wolf like a hurricane, flesh on flesh. Bone on wood. The intruder slammed against the far wall, a chair shattering under him. Ryan followed. Teeth bared, eyes glowing with something ancient and terrible. The wolf, big, scarred, feral, tried to rise. Didn't make it. Ryan had him by the throat, lifting him like dead weight. "Leave," Ryan said, voice low and shaking with fury. "Now. And if I ever smell you near my home again, I will rip out your spine and hang it from the gate." The wolf choked. Nodded. Ryan dropped him. He scrambled out, coughing, limping, gone. Silence. Jory stood frozen by the counter, one hand white-knuckling the bread knife. Mika trembled beneath me. I pushed myself up slowly. My heart was a war drum, and beneath it, a hum. The bond, real, alive, full. Ryan turned to me, his eyes met mine. Not glowing now, but still burning. "You okay?" he asked, voice quiet. "I'm fine." His gaze shifted to Mika. She sat up. "I'm okay," he exhaled, then looked at me again. "Now you understand," he said. "Understand what?" "Why I don't send people away. Why I let them stay, even when they're dangerous." I swallowed. "Because once someone's part of this, they're part of this." Later, when everything had calmed, when Mika was asleep, and Jory had taken to sharpening sticks outside like it would keep the world safe, Ryan found me on the back steps. He didn't speak for a while. Neither did I. The moon hung low, not full yet, but close, almost there, almost time. "You moved fast," he said finally. "Old reflex. You didn't have to cover her." I looked down at my hands. I did. Why? I didn't answer right away. Because I'd seen too many Omegas die under bigger bodies. Because it wasn't her fight, I said. He nodded, and for a while we just sat. Then he stood, Walk with me. The forest at night was a different world, cooler, quieter, smells sharper. I walked beside him in silence, not behind, not in front, beside. He didn't ask me where I was going, didn't ask what I was thinking, just existed next to me. It felt unnatural, and painfully right. We reached a clearing bathed in silver moonlight. He stopped, turning slightly, hands in his pockets. I thought I'd have to force you to stay, he said. At first. You didn't know. You stayed on your own. I didn't mean to, that doesn't matter. He looked at me, and it hit again, that low, steady pull. The bond wasn't new. It had been there since the day I crossed the border, dormant, waiting. I don't want this, I whispered. I know, I didn't ask for it. I didn't either. My voice cracked. You should hate me. I did. He stepped closer. Now I don't. He lifted a hand, let it hover near my face, didn't touch. Come here, he said, softly. I didn't realize I was crying until he kissed my forehead. We didn't rush. There was no fire this time. No clawing. No breathless fight for control. Just heat. And skin. And the weight of truth between us. His mouth found mine. His hands found my back. I let go. Of everything. We sank to the ground. Grass cool beneath us. The air sweet with pine. He undressed me with patience, touched me like I wasn't something to be used, but something to be seen. When he was inside me, I didn't flinch. I breathed, and for the first time, I felt real. After, I curled against his chest, shaking from something I couldn't name. Overwhelmed, not from pain. Tears leaked from the corners of my eyes. He didn't say anything. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. The bond didn't need language. Only presence. Only this. The blade felt lighter than I remembered. It had weight, yes, steel and balance, but not the same kind that used to settle in my bones when I held it. It was no longer part of me. It was a relic. I held it one last time, tracing the edge with my thumb, not to test its sharpness, to say goodbye. Then I dropped it into the fire. The flames flared, orange, blue, the scent of oil and metal curling into smoke. The capsule followed. The tiny vial of toxin hissed once and vanished. I reached into my shirt and pulled out the comm chip from beneath my collarbone. The one they'd implanted during training. Dead now. Useless. Still, it felt like cutting off a piece of myself as I crushed it under my boot. Glass cracked. Silence followed. I stood there staring at the fire, as the last pieces of who I was burned. Later, Ryan's second, the calm one, approached me near the woodshed. He said nothing at first, just handed me a small folded piece of leather. I opened it. Inside was a thin strip of branded metal, a sigil etched into the surface, not ornate but unmistakable, the mark of this pack, his pack. My hand trembled as I touched it. He shrugged. Means you chose to, and if I change my mind, then you'll still know where to come back. I held the mark tight. Didn't let go for a long time. Mika found me an hour later, dragging Jory behind her by the sleeve. We made you something, she said, shoving a bundle into my hands. It was a bracelet, lopsided, knotted with mismatched cord, a tiny carved bead at the center. What is this? I asked. Jory grinned. We didn't have wolf teeth or cool stuff, so we used soup bones. Mika glared at him. It's symbolic. Of what? I asked. Of not being a total asshole, Jory said cheerfully. For real this time. That night, I found Ryan outside the lodge, seated on a log near the fire pit. The flames danced low, crackling softly in the dark. He passed me a mug, no tea in it yet, just warmth. You sure about this? He asked. I looked at him, saw the calm in his posture. The readiness to accept either answer. No, I admitted. But I'm still staying. He nodded slowly. You think it'll be easy? No. But nothing worth doing ever is fair. I looked down at the mug in my hands. You ever regret not finishing me off when you had the chance? He didn't hesitate. No, I glanced at him. Why not? He smiled faintly. Because now I know how you take your tea. The next morning the house was quiet. Everyone was still asleep. The sun hadn't fully risen. I stood in the kitchen alone, boiling water, 2 mugs ready. I moved slowly. With intention. 1 sugar, no honey, a little milk. That was mine now. The tea was hot. Still steaming when I brought it to the table. He didn't say anything at first, just leaned against the counter. Then, "It's going to be too hot." I smiled without turning. "I can wait now." Drinking slowly. Saying nothing. No war, no orders, no deadline. Just breath, just being. I came to kill. I stayed, to breathe.